and sales and marketing through innovative product positioning, especially in this emerging area. Mr. Arman holds a BSc in Mechanical Engineering and an MBA from Syracuse University. Renewables Plus's portfolio of renewable energy projects includes a growing order book of gasifiers that is expected to exceed $100 million in this year, 2022. His team includes a core of in-house engineers with specialists, experience of renewable fuels, as well as dedicated support staff with several years of relevant experience in this field. So today, Mr. Arman will be speaking on energy transition and hydrogen, and we look forward to his talk on this interesting field of energy transition. Mr. Arman, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hemant. I am grateful for your kind introduction, and thank you everyone for making yourselves available for this program this evening. I have prepared a few slides. I will be sharing a screen so that I will walk through the slides. The first slides I will walk through them quickly because it's primarily introduction of our, who we are, what we do, which Mr. Herman has done a beautiful job. And I will, and then of course, I will focus more on the subject of the discussion today. Okay, so please allow me to share the screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So, and what I have done here, we are focusing on a new side of the energy, new renewable energy, which is hydrogen. I think most people are familiar with solar and wind and so on, but hydrogen is really the energy of the future. And when I say future, it's already there. I mean, right now there are many companies, almost every oil and gas company is looking at hydrogen. Most governments have a hydrogen economy and so on. So I thought it may be a good time for me to summarize this, because I'm sure you will be hearing about hydrogen in the very near future. Okay. Now, hydrogen, as you know, is an element, but it is a very heavy concentration of energy, and it's the most abundant element in planet Earth. So hydrogen always comes with something. It's with O becomes H2O. It comes with for example, NH3 becomes ammonium, but it's never alone as hydrogen. So what we are talking now is just hydrogen alone, which is a breakthrough that is taking place. And when you have hydrogen, because it's such heavy concentration of energy, you can have a hydrogen, for example, fuel in your car. And you drive for thousands of kilometers, and it weighs something like 2.5 kilograms, which is a phenomenon. And there will be a time where your mobile phones, for example, will have a hydrogen fuel cell, where your phone your battery will outlive your phone because of so much energy available in that concentrated form. So those are the types of things I'm trying to sort of engage your minds. It is really fuel of the future. And when you take hydrogen and you combust it or you burn it with oxygen, becomes H2O. So that means you get energy, you have a lot of energy, and your emission is distilled water. There is no CO2, there is no carbon emissions. So your carbon footprint will drop considerably. So anyhow, so this is a background, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. And obviously, if you have any questions at the end, I'll be happy to answer your questions. And then the next two slides really is just talking about our company and myself, which Mr. Arman has already covered. We are a specialist gasification specialist company. We are today we are the largest gasification company in the world. We have built more gasifiers than anybody else, and we have installed plants in 6 countries, and we have done various types of projects, first of a kind projects. For example, we built the first gasification plant in the world that uses chicken manure to generate power, the first one to use Napier grass, and so on. So anyway, so these are basically, I wanted to highlight that we have been in this business for very many years. It's just by coincidence, by luck, I should say, now suddenly this has become a hot topic. It's a flavor of the month. You know, all these years, you know, when we talk about gasification, everybody sort of, you know, just brush it off. But now we are looking at a totally different time. So myself, I founded the company, and we have built up a team, you know, a strong team that we do our own design, we do the installation, we do testing, we do operation of the plants, and so on. Now, and just to sort of give you an understanding of when I talk today, we really cover 3 main areas, and my discussions today is from point of view of all 3 angles. You know, we are an EPC contractor. We do the engineering, procurement, and construction of these plants. So when we are discussing today, I'll be able to answer any questions you have or any areas you're interested to know about the construction, about building of the facility, about the technology side. We are operator of the plants. You know, we operate our plants. We have O&M, usually operation and maintenance contracts for each individual projects. And we are recently we have started taking equity in our project. So we become project owners. So from owner's point of view, when you talk about financials and all that, I'll be able to sort of address that as well. You know, so those are the sort of 3 main areas, which covers really everything. Just a brief summary of 6 countries, 20 gasifiers, and so on. But just jumping into hydrogen, you know, just to explain to you how it works. You know, today when we talk about renewable energy, most places are solar and wind, or hydro and fuel, or geothermal, and so on. But to produce power from solar panels, there are some limitations. Obviously, I mean, it's available average of 4 hours or 5 hours a day in most countries that have a good sunlight hours. And the challenges, of course, with solar is that you have a system that after about 15 years or so, those need to be disposed. The panels are old and they are hazardous waste at that point. So there has been a move in trying to look at what to do to replace that. And solar panels, of course, to make them, there's a lot of rare earth is used, a lot of cobalt, a lot of mining, you know, to do that. So what hydrogen does, there's a gray hydrogen. This is a hydrogen that is today almost all, 99% probably, of all the hydrogen, or close to 100% of all the hydrogen that is produced in the world is what's called the gray hydrogen. And that means they take natural gas and they put it through a process and you get hydrogen. And that process has heavy amounts of CO2 emissions. So that's why they call it gray. It's not desirable. A lot of people don't want it. And now they're talking about green hydrogen. So green hydrogen then refers to a process called the electrolysis. Means you take electricity, you produce electricity, and you zap water, H2O, and you break it up into H2 and O, and your H2 is the hydrogen. And that's the most common way of doing it. And then when you do it using renewable energy, then it becomes green hydrogen versus gray hydrogen, because your source of energy is from green. But again, you know, you can do that when the sun shines or when the wind blows, you know, without some of those limitations. What we have done is that we have used the gasification technology, where we take raw materials such as woody biomass or any agricultural waste, and we put that in our gasifier. A gasifier operates without combustion. It's our reactor. You put a raw material in, it has no oxygen. It's deprived of oxygen, so there's no combustion. So when you have no combustion, there's no burning, there's no emission. So, but in that process, what happens? Wood is converted, or biomass. It could be rice husk, could be it could be anything, corn cob, is converted to gas, and that gas is fuel gas. So then you think of that gas the same way as you think of natural gas. You do whatever you can do with the natural gas. And in this case, what we do, we take that gas, which contains some hydrogen, 20% hydrogen, we separate the hydrogen and we produce it. So we have no emissions of CO2 from this process. And our energy is renewable, of course, because we use the wood to generate power. So we are also, this is a green hydrogen. But the key thing that it does, today, many countries and governments and companies are talking about net zero carbon emissions, or reducing the carbon footprint. They say by 2030, they will do such and such. By 2040, they will do such and such. And what they're really saying is that they will, they are polluting, they have been polluting, but they will be polluting less by such and such year. Okay, so that means all the emissions that has been made and is in the atmosphere will stay in atmosphere, because they are just going to emit less of it from now on. But what our system does, when you take wood, for example, or you take sugarcane bagasse, or you take corn cob, these plants, as they are growing, they are absorbing carbon because of the photosynthesis process, and they absorb carbon. Plants grow, and that's how they are cleaning the air. And then we put it in a gasifier, we generate gas, and we have a byproduct that is pure carbon that is used in farming. So basically what we are doing, we are removing atmospheric carbon, because when the plant grows, absorbs carbon, atmospheric carbon has been removed from atmosphere, goes to plant, from plant goes to gasifier, comes out as pure carbon, goes in agriculture. But it's a product called biochar. I think you Google biochar, you will see quite a lot of material on that. So biochar basically is a material that is a concentrated form of carbon and has a half-life of 1,000 years. So you are sequestering carbon. So what we are doing in this case, a plant has removed atmospheric carbon and sequestered it. That's a big deal. Okay, so when you talk about carbon credits and organizations that are offering carbon footprint credits and all that, you enjoy getting very high amounts of credit for that. I think atmospheric carbon removal today is about approximately 120 euros per ton. That means when you do this, you don't have to do anything. You just, because you have removed carbon from atmosphere, you get a credit that can be sold for 120 euro per ton. And that's what makes these projects viable. I mean, these are mechanisms that are put in place so that green technologies can be sustained, can survive. So we are now focusing on this side rather than on electrolysis. And in countries like India, you have a vast availability of biomass. I think agriculture is everywhere. There's a lot of agricultural waste that goes to waste, that is not utilized. And these, the way these operations work, they become very financially viable, where you will see, for example, if a village in a rural parts of a country uses this, their carbon footprint, the carbon footprint of that community will be less than carbon footprint of, let's say, the citizen of London. So these are very strong statements to say, look, in our country, this is what we are doing, and what are developed countries doing. And so these are areas that I think is getting a lot of attention, a lot of support. India, I've read that the government has a hydrogen, they call it hydrogen economy, because it does have an impact, direct impact on the economy. Your energy sector, you don't need to rely on importing fuel, from the Middle East or from somewhere else. Then you're producing your own fuel from within your country, not only from within the country, so your hard currency doesn't leave, but it creates jobs locally. So, and then at the same time, it cleans the environment. So these are some of the key points. Now, and just to put it in perspective, what's happening with this transition? Today, I'm sure you have heard a lot about electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are very popular. They are becoming more and more. And some major car companies, European car companies, have even targets of being 100% electric vehicle by a certain year. BMW, Audi has certain models that they're putting in that category. But just to do a comparison so that you can see how it is, electric vehicle is good for someone who wakes up in the morning, gets ready and starts the car, drives 4 or 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers to his work, parks the car there for 7, 8 hours or 10 hours, and then drives back about another 10 kilometers in the evening. Then they can use electric vehicle, and those are the things that work. But the real pollution and real cost of fuel is not for this type of transport, it's for long haul, for trucks, buses. A truck drives 8 or 10 hours a day, fully loaded. If they want to go electric, more than half the truck will be battery, and it will be extremely heavy, and it won't work. So shipping lines, aircrafts, all these are now going with hydrogen fuel. So now they call sustainable aviation fuel, SAF. Number of airlines have tried it. So you use hydrogen. Then ships use them because the ship loads all the fuel, and then they don't have any refilling station in the middle of the sea. They go to the next port and refill. So they are putting them in those stations. So you are looking at really a movement, a true transition of energy where every sector of infrastructure is going in. And I'll just use an example of the transportation. If a port is operating, there would be a time, the programs are already being put together, that if a port does not have a certain environmental standard, certain carbon, what they call a carbon number, everything is going to have a carbon number, then ships that carry some goods, they cannot go to that port. If they do, they will lose their carbon status. They will get a negative point. And of course, if a shipping line uses that, then the industrial users, they won't ship the cargo with them. So there will be a time in the near future that, let's say, your everything, from bicycles to your reading glass to everything, is going to have a carbon number, and those are going to determine how much carbon has been emitted to make that product. And this is something that countries it's not an option not to comply, because it's part of the World Trade Organization, and it's something that is already being put together. So that's what is a very, very important energy transition that we are looking at, where you are looking at hydrogen production to be a clean energy. And the reason hydrogen has been used is primarily because of the environmental impact. We are having devastating climate change results. There are floods and severe weather conditions. There's a very serious movement towards improving this condition. So that's why everybody and most governments and countries are looking at improving this condition. Just to be able to produce power or produce energy that is not emitting any carbon in this case. So I have a couple of numbers here just to give you an idea. Let's say a ton of wood will give you about 120 kilogram of hydrogen. Okay, that's I mean, in diesel terms, that's about 350 liters of diesel, roughly. Okay, and in the process, it gives biochar, it gives carbon credits, and all that. So you can see that it has a lot of positive impact to the environment, and financially, the projects are able to sustain themselves. And you know, when you do a project like this, as I mentioned to you, for a ton of biomass, you are removing about 200 kilogram of atmospheric carbon from the atmosphere. So those are key points that I wanted to sort of highlight. Just what we are looking at as solar and wind. There is a transition. You know, today people in the industry, they talk about hydrogen. They say hydrogen, hydrogen, hydrogen. Hydrogen is great, hydrogen is good, hydrogen is clean. Now, but the challenge is, yes, it's true. You know, when you combust hydrogen, you get concentrated energy, and your emission is water, distilled water. But the question is, how much pollution did you have to cause in order to make that 1 kilogram of hydrogen? Okay, and that's what we are talking about for countries that have a big farming business, and they have rural areas where they are short of energy. The infrastructure is not there. These are ideal areas, you know, that we are looking at sort of addressing. Is that, you know, it will be really, it's the example that I always give is that, you know, there was a time people had telephones, you know, but the telephone was a fixed line. There was a cable that was connected to the wall, and you could just talk while you're there, and that's it, you know, and you could do that, and a lot of countries could not afford to have that infrastructure. A lot of countries could not put in that infrastructure to make telephone lines and cables and put them. But what happened when cellular phone came, when mobile phone came, those same areas, they skipped through that sort of, they didn't have to relearn and reinvest all that. You know, they went from no phone to mobile phone. And what I want to highlight is that today in some areas where you are looking at not just rural areas, maybe even industrial areas where there's shortage of power, there's fuel is expensive, there's a challenge in coming up with energy. Now people will be able to produce energy within their own communities and in a clean manner, in a renewable source and a clean manner, and skip through all those infrastructure that was done in the past. You know, just go directly to renewable energy rather than go to these big mega polluting coal power plants and so on and so forth. So that's the energy transition that is happening today. Okay, that I think we will all be witnessing in a very near future. I'm very near. I mean, it has already started. Okay, that is taking place. So since it's produced from biomass, it's available in abundance. Its emission is water. It's carbon negative because it's removing atmospheric carbon and putting it in soil. And it's what's called distributed generation. You know, today, if you have a power plant somewhere, you need these hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure to get the power from one location to another. But or buy fuel and ship it long distances. But with hydrogen, you'll be able to just produce in what's called distributed generation within a shorter distance. So transportation cost is less, and availability is a lot easier and better for everyone. So those are some of the key things that gives an advantage that what we have now. Countries like Japan, Korea, Singapore, they have very extensive hydrogen plants. They are actually buying a lot of hydrogen. They are investing huge amounts in billions of dollars to develop these programs. So, and then countries like Australia, whose coal business is now going down, they are looking to replace coal with hydrogen. So they will be using agricultural waste, or they use electrolysis to generate hydrogen, and these will be transported. So I always say, you know, if you have this amount, I think countries, small countries, or even countries that have a lot of biomass that they cannot use, they can even start exporting fuel to other countries. So today, consumption of hydrogen is about 75 million tons a year at this time. That's a significant amount. Europe just announced that they are going to make their natural gas pipeline to become 10% hydrogen. That is a $12 trillion contract, or $12 trillion investment, just for 10% of the pipeline to become hydrogen. Singapore is going to be, the entire island will be hydrogen. They're already doing, and they're adding, and we have contracts there that we are working on building some. So this is something that I wanted to take the opportunity to just create some awareness. So if you hear hydrogen from someone, or if you read about hydrogen, at least you have some familiarity with what it is and how it would play in everyday life. It can impact everything from environment and cost and economy, jobs, for every community. I've got. I should actually do this a little bit easier to do that. I've got a few slides, 3 slides. I'll just walk through these quickly. It's just I thought, in case if anybody has any questions, in a typical case, we're talking about wood to hydrogen, converting bad carbon to good carbon. Because there is too much carbon in the air and too little carbon in soil. So when we do these projects, let's say 45,000 tons of wood as an example, when we take that wood has absorbed a lot of carbon as it's growing to absorb the carbon from the atmosphere. Then it converts to about 1.5 million kilogram of hydrogen, and it has enough energy to offset certain amount of CO2. And it removes, in this case, 8,000 tons of CO2. So these are, if you are in the industry, these are significant numbers that even a small community, even small projects can do their part. And these projects, for example, 45,000 tons a year of wood is approximately, I can tell you, per year is about six times. It's about 150 ton a day. It's a very mid-size, 150 to 200 ton a day approximately. And that plant will have a carbon removal of 8,800 tons, which is at 120 euros becomes almost €1 million. Just for doing this. I mean, we don't have to produce any product or give to anybody, just because your system remove carbon. These are there's trading platforms in Europe, primarily in the Scandinavian countries, where they buy those credits, and you also have the other offset credits. So you can see that projects easily start being financially viable for communities to be able to develop these projects. In this slide, again, it's a little bit different subject, but just to give you an idea, in case if it's something that interests you, there are 2 ways of generating green hydrogen. One is electrolysis, one is by biomass gasification, which is what we do. So I've done a comparison here. You can see for the same size plant at 300 kilogram per hour, you're looking at about $30 million of capital expenditure, and you use 3 megawatt of power. I mean, that $30 million is building a 3 megawatt power, but in electrolysis, the cost is higher because your power consumption is also higher. But in a gasification system, we solve a waste problem, whereas in electrolysis, you use 15 megawatt versus 3 megawatt. I mean, that's why electrolysis, they always build these huge megawatt plants just to zap the water. So it's really an inefficient way of using electricity, what we highlight. And then At the same time, another point that is important is that the water that you zap has to be pure water. It has to be demineralized pure water, pure drinking water. And in day and age that where there are 2.5 billion people are without proper drinking water, to make pure drinking water, to just zap it, it goes against all the principles of social aspects and environmental aspects. So those are the things that we highlight, that if a project is done with a biomass gasification, you're able to achieve a lot better results and more positive impact and less burden on the society. So when you look at it, again, a system that has a negative carbon future, 6 tons of wood will give you about 200 kilograms of hydrogen. And these are very much sought after products. As I said here, you can see 8,800 tons of CO2. That's another €1 million of income. So these are give you a fantastic payback. So if normally, what I wanted to show here, if in case anyone is curious, a $30 million plant using these methodologies generates approximately $25 million of revenue. Operating expenses, maintenance, servicing, and all that together is about $10 million. So a $30 million expenditure delivers about a $15 million net cash flow. I mean, that's a 2-year payback. So you spend $30 million, but you have an asset value, net present value of $150 million, and this is what has been phenomenal, for us that we are dealing with in just in the past in the recent year, and we have secured a number of projects in Australia, in Singapore, but now we are looking at expanding to other countries. So hydrogen is not just for developed countries; it's really for every country that has biomass, to use. So this is what I have for today. I hope I've stayed within the time. So if you have any questions, of course, I'll be happy to answer. Yeah.
Thank you, Arman. It was a fantastic presentation, and you really made us aware about possibilities in hydrogen. Okay, there are a few questions which I have received, which I will put it to you. Just before that, okay, just a larger picture I would like to understand from you is that which of the sectors you see would be primarily first sectors, prime movers in adoption of hydrogen?
Yeah, what I see in my opinion is mobility, cars, transport, because it's really it's a no competition. I mean, it just has a lot of, and then when when you're looking at countries with a poor infrastructure of pumping stations, they're not there. If they're there are some issues. I think those investments are no longer needed. I think you put hydrogen cartridges. People just take a cartridge and put it in the car and drive. And they just go and replace the cartridge. So all these investments that some other countries have done, developing countries can skip over that. So and it's clean. And when you are talking about this, every country has made a commitment to meet certain carbon footprints targets, and every kilometer that a car drives gives that credit, gives that flexibility to that country. So mobility, airlines have huge pollutions, and they are going about this in a very big way, because they need to maintain some corporate image and all the advantages that they have. So I believe it's more, first is mobility, but power sector is very close, but power sector is so huge that no matter how much hydrogen we produce, is going to be a small fraction of it first until the capacity is built up.
Okay, great. Arman, there are series of flooding. I'm flooding with the questions. So let me just start with the first question. The one was, what is the difference between carbon offset and what is and carbon removal? Your one of the slide talked about that.
Yeah, when you talk about renewable energy, any renewable energy, I mean, including hydrogen, solar, and so on. So what you do emission reduction. That means that when you reduce a kilowatt somewhere using solar, as an example, that means somewhere, someplace, a diesel or sorry, a fossil fuel has gone down by equivalent of this. So fossil fuel generates CO2 emissions, but when you produce renewable energy, that fossil consumption goes down. So you have done emission offset or
you have avoided that much of the carbon.
That's right. You have avoided. So if you didn't produce this renewable energy, somebody would have had to burn some fossil fuel and do that. So that's emission reduction or carbon offset. But carbon removal is that you are removing atmospheric carbon and putting it into soil, into earth, and that is the one that is a significant point, because every kilogram of CO2 that removed is a significant. I mean, it's just there aren't very many systems. There are 6 technologies in the world approved by IPCC that allow or qualify, and one of them is a gasification system. So it's carbon removal. There is too much carbon in the air, but there's too little carbon in soil. Just to tell you, I'll try to make my answers short because I know you have more questions. The soil, the earth, the soil in Amazon is biochar.
Okay.
And it's a very rich soil. So when you put biochar in agriculture, it's a organic farming, it's a soil conditioner, it retains moisture, and your crop grows much better. And at the same time, you have sequestered carbon. So that's why there's too little carbon in earth. So now when you put it, you have taken carbon where there is too much of, and you put it where there's too little of, you balance it out.
Fantastic, Arman. Arman, flooding with the questions. First question for you. Using wood would lead to massive deforestation. Please comment upon that.
Yeah. It's a very good point, a very good question, and our policy is that we don't take any wood from forests in a sense that the forest cut down. We take in Japan, for example, we have built a gasifier that takes forestry trimmings. It takes wood that from forest floor, because these catch fire if you don't collect them. We use in Australia. They have huge, massive fires, So as a part of mitigating factor, they are removing all these branches that break off and fall, and they burn. So we use those. So we are using wood waste. We use, there's huge amounts of wood that is wood waste from sawmills. A wood factory takes wood to make furniture, to make household goods and all them, and there's sawdust, and there's a lot of other waste material. So we use only wood waste. We use agricultural waste, bagasse from sugarcane plantations, corn cob, rice husk, all that. It is our policy, and we don't take, because if we do, we won't qualify for carbon credits, and banks will not finance you if you take you cut down forests. We don't do that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point about the financing, green financing, which you have touched upon.
Yeah. If a bank finances a project that is cutting down forests, that's really almost a suicide for them.
Absolutely.
They don't. They really simply don't. So if you do these projects without any funding, without investments, and if you do one, you want to go do another good one, you will not be followed. So it is, the whole purpose is to be environmental friendly. So it's not to cut down the forest. But it's a very good point brought up. I should have mentioned it earlier.
Fantastic. I'm glad that you answered it very nicely. So one of the question is about hydrogen logistics. How hydrogen is transported, and what are the issues in the transportation, number one. And number two, can this be used for urban waste, which is a big waste disposal problem in the developed economies?
Yeah. Again, I'll try to make my answers quick, but if it's not answering your question, please tell me. I will go back. Hydrogen, number one, using municipal waste is a possibility. There is an option, but it's too early to tell. We have plans to test. But it has to be segregated, because there are certain things that people throw a lot of things in the feed that is not supposed to be there. People throw batteries or mosquito sprays, and these are all chemicals. And if you put it in a gasifier, then your gas comes out with some of those toxins, and then it doesn't work so well. So there are some areas that we need to work on for municipal waste, but. I believe at some point in the future, this is going to be addressed for segregated waste, maybe some sorting and separation, just plastics, things like that. But the other question, which is to do with hydrogen transportation, that's a fantastic question, and I can talk to you for a long time, but I just tell you, hydrogen is a very, very difficult to transport by itself. Hydrogen is extremely light. So if you were to just take hydrogen and compress it to high levels and put it in these 18-wheel trucks, 18-wheel tankers, it will be only 365 kilograms. So you can see then your cost of transportation would be a lot. Although that 365 has a lot of energy and so on. So. And that has been, or that was a major obstacle in hydrogen economies, But what happens if you convert hydrogen to ammonia, which is done by adding nitrogen to it, and nitrogen is plenty available in the atmosphere. And then you have a raw material, you have an ammonia that is liquid form, is stable, you can pack it in tanks and so on, and you ship it, you transport it. And that's how it's being done today. So today, what is being discussed, for example, our project is with a Korean company, Samsung. So they will be buying hydrogen from us, converting it to ammonia and transport ammonia. Ammonia reaches Korea. They are going to use the ammonia as fuel. They are going to co-fire in their power plants and just use it, because you can transport ammonia very cheap compared to hydrogen, and use it. So this is what's happening. Most companies are instead of liquefying it or compressing it, which is very costly and difficult and very hard to manage, because you have high compression tanks and all that. It's converted to ammonia and methanol. Methanol is the other option, liquid form, transported. And then if they want, they recrack it and then separate the hydrogen later, if they want. So it's a simple process. But that's a very good point, the transportation and that has been one of the points that has helped the industry for years, but now it's changed.
Okay. Arman, your last slide about project economics has fired many questions. Okay, so one of the question is, if the economics is so attractive, why it has not been implemented yet?
Yeah. When we talk about gasification, there aren't very many companies doing it. Okay, when you talk about green hydrogen, almost all companies talk about electrolysis using solar energy. Okay. We started about 6 months ago to focus to have a subsidiary to handle hydrogen. I think, Rajul, you're aware, we have been awarded 7 contracts in Australia, and we have been awarded 2 contracts in Singapore. Their contracts, value, just the construction cost of these is around $500 million, in 6 months. You will hear about these. There will be more and more. It's a matter of time. It's coming. Yeah. And companies who buy hydrogen, they're not small organizations. Hydrogen is bought by major. I mean, our clients are government-owned companies. It's just who buys LNG, for example. I mean, they buy shiploads in hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So our contracts have been with organizations like that in just 6 months or less than 6 months. And we are proceeding. We are now doing design and some construction work and all that. So I think there will be more news coming out.
Yeah, we wish you all the best for sustainable fuel in the future. And one more thing which I wanted to touch base is you presented very interesting economics of green hydrogen using electrolysis and green hydrogen using biomass gasification process. So any thoughts on cost of the final product? Let's say if I'm talking about green hydrogen from electrolysis, what it would cost to the end buyer? Presently?
Yeah, if you look at the same size plants, you are looking at approximately 40% more in the case of electrolysis.
Okay.
But Rajul, one of the things I should highlight, when we talk about biomass, there's a finite amount of biomass available in the world. We are not going to be able to meet all the energy needs of transport and energy and power by wood waste and sugarcane waste and I don't know, corn cob and all that stuff. So there will still be electrolysis. There will be also gray hydrogen, although at a little bit higher cost. But in our case, I believe that we have a niche market. It is a small part of the market, but nevertheless for us is big. And that's what we are focusing on.
Yeah. You also mentioned about one interesting point about rural economy of hydrogen, okay, which is means from the Rotary perspective, okay, that basically triggered our thought process is that how best we can use this as a project, a sustainable project for the rural areas. Is something, any thoughts, philanthropic organization like us, how we can take this forward?
Yeah, we really need to think about this. I personally, I get very excited about doing philanthropic work in a sense that it's not just handing out some money or food and then leave and come back. It's just creating an industry and work and all that. And if I'm going to do something, and if it's done, let's say, in a region that the impact is more significant, it's certainly more desirable.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing today, one of the things is we are looking at building a small scale hydrogen plant. So we don't talk about millions of dollars in that sense. It is going to be a fraction of that price. And those then would enjoy some incentives in the form of grants from governments to be able to do this. And what we are doing is that we are working with some major oil companies, internationally recognized oil and gas companies. So we are putting that as their ESR program. Basically say, look, I think if you want to do a hydrogen project, we ask you to sponsor,
Okay.
1% of your order or 1% of your sort of the size of the business in something in this country for that work. So we are looking at that, and perhaps if something comes up in India, I think that would be maybe a great. We can work through your office.
Absolutely. Rotary will be very happy to coordinate such efforts for, I would say, hydrogen rural economy, which is a fantastic keyword that you used. Okay. This one, we are almost reaching to the end of the question and answer session. So any more questions from this one, or President, shall we wrap it out? Any words?
Yeah, no, I think it's been a fascinating conversation. We all grew up on petrol and gas and diesel, and we thought there was never going to be anything else. And then sure enough, we had electricity, and then now we have hydrogen. And I, in between, I think we were discussing something, and I realized that the electric car was actually done at the same time or almost before or around the time the petrol car really took off, but they bought the
Yes.
technology over. So that was pretty interesting to know. And I think, the world to sustain this kind of population really needs more advances in terms of clean energy. What we find clean today, we may find something even cleaner tomorrow. But if this is the cleanest thing we have, then that's something we really need to propagate. To take off a little bit from what Shardul was saying, I was wondering if there is something we could do as as Rotarians to educate people or to help them adopt, hydrogen technology. Maybe there's a similar technology, because using clean fuel is something that is a legacy that we would leave to the next generation.
Yeah, I think, first area that comes to mind is that you have abundance of fuel in the form of biomass that is that can be sort of organized to be collected, but it will only be done if there's an incentive for them. When they bring it, they're paid,
Right.
or
It has to work financially in the real world.
That's right. And I think these sort of projects give that opportunity, because they are financially viable, and we get grants and we get some support, where the project then is able to produce energy and sell fuel. And the oil companies, they would buy the fuel, they would buy the hydrogen.
Right.
So and the money will be spent for the project, so for the community, for the jobs and all that. So I think these are certainly viable options, and I will certainly keep that in mind. I'm just keep my eyes and ears open. I mean, I talk to Shardul every week, sometimes every day. I think this is something that we will look into, just maybe to come up with a program in India if possible. I need to give it some thought just to see what we can do in order to have some philanthropic activity to support the communities with this.
Sure. Great. I think it's back to you, Shardul.
Yeah.
For those thanks. And,
Yes.
it's nice, and Singapore is doing well otherwise. You're speaking from Singapore?
I'm in Kuala Lumpur, but we have projects in Singapore. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Great.
Okay. So thank you, President. Arman, we kept you waking till 11 o'clock. Sorry for that. But it's my privilege to sort of officially express our vote of thanks. You nicely started by introducing hydrogen to us. Okay. And you explained how the application sectors and according to you, the transportation is going to be the most important prime mover of hydrogen adapter. So that's something we are also looking forward to that. And you made a very interesting point that the technology that you use is basically a carbon negative technology. Means biochar, which is produced as a byproduct of your technology, actually reduces the carbon count by significant numbers. In fact, you presented very nicely those numbers. And what we really appreciated is your rural carbon economy. The buzzword you just presented, I think there is a lot of potential around that. And as a Rotarians, we would be very interested to take this project forward. Another point you made very apt was putting up a carbon number on every product, wherein a port will decide which products to ship in and to ship out. I think that was a very interesting concept you brought out, and that was really an eye-opener for us, how we as an exporting country should be getting adapted to carbon number, attaching a carbon number to our exports. And in the end, you presented very nicely that the 45,000 tons of wood waste actually helping to offset about 8,000 tons of carbon being offset, and similar amount of carbon being removed. I think that's very significant number. And if you attach a value to that, we were pleased to know it's a 1 million euro kind of a carbon being removed, worth of carbon being removed. That's a fascinating number, I must say. The societal aspect of carbon-free economy and gasification, which you highlighted, was just fantastic. And we thank you very much for making this session very, very interesting for our Rotarians and opening up our minds for the fuel of tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I also thank everybody for your time and your attention. You have made yourself available to listen in. I look forward. I really hope that I can come up with something at some point in the future that we can implement something that would highlight the impact to the world, the communities in India.
Thank you, Arman. Over to you, Tejas.
Yeah, Tejas, for the secretary's announcement, please.
Good evening, fellow members. We have some more interesting programs coming up. So we have actually tomorrow and day after, we have the semifinals of the RCBW debate. We're going to have 4 teams actually. So there's going to be 2 sessions of debate tomorrow and day after. On January 12th, that is next Thursday, Wednesday, we have on Giants Shoulder Series, where we will have an interview with our own senior Rotarians. Our past president, Arvind Shah, has consented to be there, and we'll have a session with him to know his views on Rotary and his experience within Rotary. On January 19th, we have the debate semi-final, and on 26th January, we have flag hoisting at City School. So that's it from my side. And today we had an attendance of 29 is what I saw on the Zoom meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I now declare the meeting closed and open the floor for chit chat. How are you, Rajul?
Good. Thanks. How are you?
Very good. Very good.
Have you signed that agreement?
Yeah, it's there. I'm going to sign it.
Yes.
There, I was just out of the office most of the time. So, but you need to give us those goods from the bakery. Yeah? Once they bake it, you need to give us samples of that.
You pay for it.
Of course, we are already paying for it.
Whatever you want, you have to pay for it.
Nothing,
so that everybody could follow and they'll make some decent money.
Bravo. So, Kishan bhai, how are you?
Gautam,
I'm good,
please
sir.
sign it by tomorrow because I'm going to be traveling.
You're going to be traveling. Okay.
Yes.
How's the cricket team doing?
Cricket team doing pretty well. I mean, it was for last 3-4 days, I was avoiding going there, but today I did go, enjoyed my morning session. Why don't you come? I mean, a morning session about half an hour, 1 hour is good enough. And
No, I just between tennis, gym, cricket, because I would love to do it. Thoda bit kaam piche chhodna padega.
You enhance your immunity also by doing that.
Yeah, no, sports is very good. I mean, and actually being in the open air is excellent if you ask me.
And the chances of getting any infection is much lesser because you are distance apart, you are maintaining social distance, and more than that, you are doing some kind of exercise and relaxing yourself.
Yeah, and you're hitting COVID for a 6 in the bargain, right?
Good enough, sir. Good enough. I admire you people. You are doing a good job under very tiring condition, trying condition, difficult time. All that is happening for good and managed well. I appreciate that. All must be appreciating that. Good.
Yeah, no, good, great. It's we are waiting as soon as the COVID subsides a little bit. We'll probably have a cricket fellowship. I think there were plans for that.
True.
Looking forward to that, Gautam.
Yeah, it'll be fun. music, something, everything we'll organize.
Of course, yes.
Like we did last time.
Did you speak to that lady?
No, I set up for Friday.
Okay.
It's set up for Friday.
Okay. Great. All the best.
Yeah, sure.
I won't be here on Friday, but WhatsApp me. Kya
Yes,
hua?
I will. I will.
Okay.
All right.
Gautam, no plans for a physical meeting, no, for the time being?
In the immediate future, I mean, next week or 2 weeks at least, no plan right now. But if people want to meet, we can maybe over the weekend, think of organizing just a walk along Juhu Beach or something like that.
I think we should avoid because this is very contagious, as people
Yeah,
say.
no,
it, and
meetings
they
right
come
now, currently,
together.
at least for a couple of weeks, we are
Avoidable.
planning only
It has-
online meetings.
True, true.
Kishan, flag
Hello, sir.
hosting will be physical. It will be at Shruti.
It has to be. It has to
Yeah.
be physical only. 26 Jan. Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
So,
I hear there is a new restriction on about from 4 p.m. No shops, meaning shops will not be open. Gym also
shops will not be open. I'm sorry, your voice is
from
not.
4 p.m. Yeah,
Manish,
from
your voice is
4 p.m. Yeah, okay. From 4 p.m. shops will not be open.
okay.
After 4? After 4?
Yes, and even restaurants
my
will not
God.
be open.
Oh my God! When
Yeah.
it got announced?
Just now, maybe about
Just
an
now.
hour back.
Oh my God!
Hmm.
Will they allow us to travel?
That I don't know, but some new restrictions have come up. So kindly just check your Google News or whatever, your source. You should confirm before going anywhere.
That means situation is bad.
It is.
Bad,
Well,
but
we'll
we
get
hope
over it.
everybody sails through because I think
we'll get over it.
everybody's house or friends, at least friends, have at least one case, I will say.
Yeah, true.
So as long as they all recover healthy, then I think in 2-3 weeks things should be a lot better because so many people have gotten it already that it's tough to believe more people are going to get it because I think everybody who has gotten it has already gotten it.
The best opinion about this disease, in the sense people say nothing is happening, people say that something would happen. I mean, it could be bad, it could be. You must also have read what people give their opinion about, even the medical facility part of it. But as I understand, I've seen some few people getting it and getting out of it very, very easily.
Yeah, we pray that is what happens to everybody. That.
True.
There's a joke that if you haven't heard of anyone in your circle getting it, means you don't have enough friends.
Yeah, or you're not in Mumbai.
Yeah.
Correct.
Chalo, good night. I'm logging off.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye. Good night. Good night,
Okay.
everyone. Good night,
Okay,
everyone.
bye-bye.